This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, as the chair of the Clark CAC, I call this meeting on February 25th, year 2021 at 6 p.m. This electronic meeting to order. And I'll start with introducing myself. I'm Mike Magyar, and I'm the moderator. So how y'all doing? And I'll let the rest of the folks introduce themselves.
Jim Nikas.
Matt O'Grady.
Julia Decker.
Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director.
I see Carol Johansson, who does frequent these meetings but does not introduce herself.
Sounds good. Hi, Carol. You can toggle your mute switch on and off to say hi if you want to. All right, so we're going to elect some officers today. Is that what's going to happen?
Well, it is. Checking to see, though, do we have a quorum? I'm trying to remember how many of you we have now.
We have 5.
Okay, so if with 3 present, we do have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Am I supposed to initiate that process of the election? What are the officers?
You could ask for nominations or something like that.
Sounds good. All right, are there any nominations for the chair of this particular organization? Anybody want to do it?
I nominate Mike.
All right. Thanks, Jim. or thanks a lot, Jim.
Anytime.
All right. Let's see. Do we have an officer who goes and gets pizza sometimes? Well, I think we should have one of them. Is there any budget for that?
Virtual pizza. That'd be good.
No?
At this time, we do not have a pizza budget.
No
for
pizza
virtual
budget.
Pizza. Not yet.
Well, it doesn't hurt to ask. What other? So let's do an assistant chair.
Oh, we have Tiffany.
Oh, there. That's perfect.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Okay, Tiffany Hall, one of your other new folks has joined you.
Oh, fantastic.
Tiffany, we're in the middle of electing officers. Jim Nikas has just nominated Mike Magyar.
Okay.
Tiffany, can you introduce yourself? I don't know if we've met.
No. I'm Tiffany Hall. I am a early childhood special education specialist for the Northwest Regional ESD, and I am on the advisory committee for Lewis and Clark Olney.
You are. That's fantastic. Okay. Well, we've got 4 people here now. That's super exciting. Tiffany, do you have any interest in being the vice chair? Are you kind of a motivated person?
Motivated in what way?
Well, I mean, you have like all the equipment that says I could be vice chair. You've got headphones and a microphone. That's like legit.
Oh,
it's pretty easy.
What would I do?
Well, this is what you do. So what I do is I look at this agenda that you can see on the screen here, and I make meetings start at 6 because that's what it says, and I don't wait for people to show up. So I always start at 6 because that's what it says, and then I try to efficiently go through the list of topics and try to just kind of keep conversations going. If we start to meander, I try to herd the cats. And I let the planners do all the fancy footwork because they're the ones who are super smart. And Basically, you'd be taking over when I'm not there, which is maybe half the time, or maybe a little bit less than that.
Do I have to respond today?
Yep. You're on the spot. You don't have to respond right now, but if I nominate you, we'll vote on it. If you don't want to, you can always decline. I'm not going to nominate Jim. I tell you that. He doesn't want to do it. Even though he's more qualified than all of us to be the chair.
I'm not a people person, you know that.
Jim, I got your back.
Not a people person, I can't do things.
Hey, Jim, I'm not a people person either.
All right, so are there any other, those are the two most important ones. Someone to sort of keep us on track and someone to be there when we don't have someone to keep us on track. And I don't know if there's any other officers.
Pat O'Grady. You haven't called on Pat yet.
Okay,
I'm
Hey,
going
Pat.
to abstain, thank you.
there we go. A man, a few words, I like it. Well, okay, so we've got a nomination for me. We don't have anybody as vice. What happens if we don't flesh out the executive council here at this meeting at this time?
Well, you just continue the way that you are, and I can put election of officers on the next go around, and then you can go through this agony at your next meeting.
I'll do it.
Nice.
I had, I'm just putting it that way so you're
I
clear
love
about
the way he says it.
It's not hard. It's not hard.
And good
All
for
right,
you.
so thank you, Tiffany, for stepping up and serving your community with a smile. I appreciate that. It's awesome. All right, so I'm going to call for, so do we have so I'm going to nominate Tiffany Hall to be vice chair. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
I'll
right.
third it.
Okay, sounds good. So Jim Nikes has on the table a nomination for Mike Magyar as chair. Do we have a second for that?
I will second that.
All right, well, we're almost there. All right, so let's do a vote for chair. Those all in favor of Mike Magyar continuing as chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? So the ayes have it. Mike continues as chair. Let's have a vote on Tiffany Hall. We've nominated you to be vice chair of the Clark CAC. Any ayes for Tiffany? Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. It's all unanimous. We have our executive committee. Are there any further people that we need to have other than those two?
No.
All right, well, we're good to go then.
All right.
All right. Look at that. You see that, Tiffany? It's 6:09 and I'm right on track. See, these are the things you got to pay attention to. Now, so 6:15, we got a few, so the review meeting summaries deferred or under separate cover. This is when the county comes in and our expertise starts to shine. Would you guys like to take over?
So with the review of the meeting summaries, I am going to just tell you straight up, I have not had time to do meeting summaries for several months. However, we have got somebody in the budget. We've hired actually a firm that is doing summaries. Gail can probably give you a little more background on that. We have somebody basically who's going to get us caught up.
Yes,
Awesome.
We have hired a transcriptionist.
That's fantastic. I was wondering who was doing all that work. That's a lot of work for all those meetings. Can't even imagine.
And when you
Okay,
get a
well,
little bit behind, it's even worse.
so if anybody's curious, that's where our pizza money went. All right, so just saying. Okay.
Well spent.
Yeah, all right. So we're on to the next one, public comment and input. So this is my favorite part. which always tends to disappoint me because nobody ever comments. So, but I'm going to open it up for the public to voice their opinions on just about anything I'm going to say right now. And more specifically, anything that we're going to talk about later, or just how you're feeling and all that. So here we go. Public comments are open.
I have a public comment. This is off topic, but we need, or somebody in planning or somebody somewhere needs to talk about some kind of an avenue to create legal organic dump sites. We have nothing in any of our comp plan or anything that discusses having permanent dump sites for organic material. So there you go.
Okay, so are you talking brush or are you talking human waste?
No. Organic meaning dirt, soils. For an example, there's two huge projects going on at this time, which is the Warrenton schools and Northwest Natural are both building new facilities, and there's tens of thousands of yards of basically dirt, soil, stuff like that comes off these sites, that the only avenue for doing any type of dumping now is to have something that you're doing, a building or something else. So the only way that you can have a legal dump site is to kind of fib about, where the soil's going. And anymore in this day and age, as we know, my friend Dan Carey will not allow anything to be dumped in wetlands or lowlands or tidelands or all this good kind of stuff where people have a tendency to dump all this stuff. And now all government agencies and everything else are demanding a legal dump site. Well, there is no such thing in Clatsop County. All you can do is make up a fictitious building or something that you're going to do and get a development permit for X amount of yards instead of having a true dump site. The only one there is I have one out on the Lewis Clark main line that I inherited from Greenwood that had no expiration date on it, but that's getting towards the area that it's almost filled, and we need to find new dump sites.
Well, interestingly enough, we're looking for a site for a large-scale septic holding area. So perhaps we can dovetail the two projects.
Okay.
I will bring it up to the assistant county manager. She's leading the project for the other site. So.
Well, shouldn't there be able to be private ones? Or
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah,
you can put any kind of contingencies on it you want, that they're, obviously the obvious ones, they're out of wetlands, they're not in geohazard areas, and blah, 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 those type of things. But any legitimate operator should, not just me or Big River or anybody else, any other contractor should be able to have a legitimate dump site that's above board and can be actually even looked at if it needed to be.
Yep, I agree. So I have made a note of it, Jim, and I will look into it for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent comment, Jim. My favorite one so far. Nice work. All right. Does anybody else have any public comments or input? Tiffany.
You're muted.
Thank you. I had my mic muted and not my computer. I was wondering with what's going on in Texas recently, I'm not familiar about building codes in Oregon. Um, could anything like that happen to us here on the coast, like what is recently happened in Houston with frozen pipes? What are the regulations here in our county concerning any of that?
We have strict building codes here that address most things that have to do with piping and that kind of stuff. But fortunately, we don't have a ton of cold weather, but it does happen, I guess. But we have more stringent land use laws and building codes than Texas does.
Okay.
Texas is pretty relaxed.
which is part of
And
Texas's problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I wasn't sure, so I just wanted to see what ours were here.
we've also have a completely different energy source than Texas does. We have the Columbia River and the Snake River, and we have hydroelectric dams up and down those rivers that are managed by the Corps of Engineers and the Bureau of Reclamation, and they pump energy out to the Department of Energy, which is the Bonneville Power Administration, which brings power to Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana, and they supply power to Pacific Power. They have substations everywhere, and their grid is phenomenal. And so the types of issues that Texas has in the way that they've chosen to manage their energy infrastructure is totally different and exactly the opposite of the way that we do it here. So it would be a catastrophe if we suffered the same consequences as Texas did here.
Good to know. Thanks.
Any other public comments? No. Okay. So let's see. Make a note, Tiffany, 6:18. Okay. I'm a few minutes ahead of schedule. I like it. So the next is the fun part. This is what I come here for. We're going to let our CRAC staff, our CRAC planning staff of Clatsop County, do a little presentation for us, and they're going to talk about all the good stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. And I'll give the mic over to Julia, I think, maybe.
And so I will accept that challenge as well as I can. Gail actually prepared the Goal 5 and Goal 13 materials for the evening, and this is energy sources, and it's also Goal 13 energy conservation. In a staff meeting, we all looked at it and said, why are we doing these two separately? And so Gail went ahead and combined them into one evening. And that works out pretty well for this group because you guys did not have anything in the rural community plan for Lewis and Clark only Woluski under either of these specific to you. So I'm going to be asking you to just look at the general goals that are countywide, and then we had basically an advisory one on your table 3, so something that staff proposed. But really, you might end up going through this section fairly quickly. So with energy sources, Gail put together a background report. And there were some interesting items on it, but one thing I wanted to point out to you was under Goal 13, energy conservation, there's a list of energy sources, and Goal 13 was originally adopted in 1980. And so these were, and this is, I think I'm on page 4 of her memo. And this is the list of what was identified at the time. Hydroelectric primarily supplied by Bonneville Power Administration, with small quantities also distributed by West Oregon Electric Co-op, Tillamook Public Utilities District, which I honestly did not realize until I think earlier in 2020. I did not realize that they were serving a really small little wedge down in mid-South County, and Clatskanie Public Utilities District, which is serving over in the Westport area. Natural gas is supplied by Northwest Natural Gas, and we have oil products that are refined in Puget Sound, piped into the state via the Olympic pipeline. We have coal that is coming to us via rail and truck, and I would point out that that coal is actually being brought down the so we're transporting coal by rail, open rail cars, along the Columbia River. So that's just something that is an issue to me. I wish they would close those cars, but apparently they don't. And every now and then, you know, something derails and we end up with coal spilled into or right next to the Columbia. So that's just an issue. Wood, nuclear power. I did not know this. There was a plant siting study in 1975 that identified a 400-acre site in Brownsmead, which was probably in a flood zone, but I don't know, for a possible nuclear power plant. I had no idea, and I don't know where that site is. Let's see, solar energy. They were actually predicting large-scale solar farms by 2000, and we have not seen that. But we do have small-scale solar projects around the county. Wind generation was not expected to be developed in the near future when they were looking at this in 1980. But they did look at some sites for possible wind generation projects. One was Clatsop Spit, Columbia River Jetty, Fort Stevens, the Astoria Weather Bureau, which doesn't exist anymore, but was out at the Port of Astoria Airport, and Wickiup Ridge. And that's kind of interesting because we actually do have a proposal right now. We have a meteorological tower that is proposed and will probably be constructed up on Nikolai, which is along Wickiup Ridge. It's a little bit, I think, this side. There's two ridges there in East County, and this one would actually be up on the second one, not on Nikolai, but or not on Wickiup, but on Nikolai. And so anyway, they are going to be testing and gathering data regarding the potential for wind power up on Nikolai Ridge, up on the mountain there. Biomass was something else they were looking at, and then tides and waves, so tidal energy. And that's got some potential to it with some projects that are kind of in the offing that are newer right now. So this is what they were kind of identifying back in 1980. They thought that it would be farther along than it is. So we're about 20 years behind schedule, maybe. What we wanted to do this evening was ask you to take a look at the current goals and policies regarding these two goals and see if there's anything in there that you have concerns about, anything that you wanted to pull out and talk about, anything that you wanted to devise or craft as something that was missed the first time around. So really, that's kind of in a nutshell. I will tell you that Gail's got this really nifty background report on there that has some good information about the Bonneville Power Administration. Well, it's got lots of good information, but I specifically like the section on the Bonneville Power Administration. And then also there was some information toward the end with some graphics that talked about the burden, the energy burden in Clatsop County, and the number of people for whom energy costs are a significant portion of their income, and it's between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 families basically, and that's, to me, that's kind of a lot. That's between 20 and 25%. That's a lot of people for whom decisions about gasoline and heating and things like that That's just a lot of people to be burdened that way. So those were the elements that I thought might be of interest to you this evening. But that's my down and dirty short presentation, and we can go over anything. The specifics of it really, again, Gail provided this background report, which if you haven't had time to really look at it yet, I would say, don't be shy, take a look. But other than that, do we want to go through the energy policies from Goal 5 one by one, or have you guys already looked at them? Please let me know what you would like.
Well, one of my concerns, and I don't know that we need to go through this all one by one, but one of my concerns are this trend for government agencies to shy away or downright ban natural gas. This new wave of, for some reason, is there any thought of that or anything going on in our county about that?
I personally have not heard anything.
Neither have I.
Yeah, well, especially in the North Seattle area, they're already banning natural gas to be used in new construction and stuff like that. That's kind of concerning to me because that's one of the major heating sources in this county, and I just was wondering how that goes.
I'm not aware of that anywhere that I've seen in this county. Certainly not in the city of Astoria. I live rural, and I haven't heard anything about that locally. I haven't heard anything about it out of Portland either.
So let's write in our policy that we cannot ban natural gas. How about that? Come on, let's have everybody say yes, please.
Well, I don't really think we should be banning natural gas either. But I don't know. Are you serious, Jim, or are you just having fun?
No. They seriously, is it Bremerton?
No, I know what you're saying. I'm mostly commenting on
I,
the
oh, I don't know that it's even possible to do it as part of a
Well,
competition, but
look here. Look at the first thing. Policy 1. Development shall not be allowed to impair the feasibility of potential wind generating facilities. Why couldn't we say development shall not be allowed to impair the feasibility of natural gas facilities?
I'm great with
Right?
that. And
Isn't
I'm
that what
great
you're saying?
with good luck with that in this political climate, but yeah, sure, I'd love to see it. It's a good suggestion.
Well, I think that development is already impairing the feasibility of potential wind generating facilities at the airport with some of the few open spaces they have. They're putting in a fish meal plant, and then there'll be other stuff too. Those are classic prime spots that are out of the flight path, wide open. Where else at the airport would you put a wind turbine that wasn't in the way of incoming aircraft?
Yeah, I don't know where you could because the flight the flight space is just about everywhere out there. I don't think
Maybe John Nygaard will donate his elk farm up there to the wind turbines, and they'll just stick them up on the hill.
perfect.
Yeah, I'll ask him if he wants to do that next time I see him.
Good luck with that.
I'm just going to throw a side comment in real fast. We have gas fields, the missed gas fields next door in Columbia County. And the best of my knowledge, those are not going anywhere. And there has been in the last, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years, the same company was looking at Clatsop County, just really close to the county line over just off of 202 on our side. They were looking at potentially doing some test drilling. They did not, whatever early feasibility that they did decided not to pursue it at that time. They could come back, I don't know, but there is natural gas in the whole Mist Birkenfeld east side of this county in that 202 area. There are pools of it somewhere.
We had one for 5 years on Twilight Creek, and they must have tapped it out, but they actually did have a gas well right there in Swenson. In the late 70s, early 80s.
I was not here for that.
Can we like legitimately address policy 1 in the staff comment with regard to the Port of Astoria? You know, what are we doing to ensure that wind power is being allowed to be developed there? What kind of teeth do we have?
So, go ahead, Jim.
You can't make anybody do anything, but especially within the city of Astoria. But I don't.
That's Warrenton.
Oh, Port. I thought you said the Port of Astoria. Oh, Warrenton's at the Port of Astoria. You're talking. Okay, you're talking. Yeah.
I'm talking about the airport.
Right. Like I say, it's you. We can't even get a drone to go up over 7 feet off the ground before it shuts itself down because it's in the flight plan. So I don't know that you could even do it out there. The flight path out there is pretty much everything that is the actual airport, the city of Astoria. I thought you meant the Skipping because they own that too.
No, I'm just making a comment. I've got an observation that we have the first policy is about not impairing the feasibility when in fact, I don't know if that's even something that's happening. So then the next question is, why do we have it as a policy and why do we want to retain it if it doesn't mean anything? Or do we just keep it because we have it? But
Gail, any comment?
Yeah, I do have a comment actually. So, specifically with regard to the airport, I will tell you that I didn't even know this policy was in our plan until I put together these materials. So, we have already provided comments on the fish plant out in Warrenton, but that would have been the perfect time to include this policy as the way to raise a concern. So now that I know about it, now that other areas we know have been identified as development occurs in those areas or is proposed in those areas, that's the time that we pull this out and lay it on the table and say, look, we have this policy that says you really shouldn't be building here. So I think it's worth keeping. What I would suggest is we clean up the sites that we're looking at. The airport may be too far gone at this point, and I know Warrenton really has their heart set on developing it, and that may not be a political battle we want to get into at this point. But there are probably other sites in the county that would also be worthy of protection. So I would focus on those.
do we need the Oregon Department of Energy to revisit a study of this? Is that something that we can ask them to do, or are we pretty happy with the sites that we've got?
That's a good question. I think we probably should reach out to them and see if they can do another study, because this one's however many years old, decades old, approaching 40 years. So.
Can I make a recommendation that we consider reaching out to the ODOE and ask them to perform another study or consider performing another study?
I don't know if the chair can make a motion.
Yeah, you're right. See, there you go, Tiffany. That's one of the limitations right there.
So do one of us need to make a motion?
Yes.
Can I make a motion that we,
Yeah,
because that's a lot. I mean, really, I mean, I was just thinking, I mean, 1983, we have, I mean, the information that would be available today would be completely different than what was probably at that time. I mean, just regulations would be different, or even requirements depending on what is actually the way they're doing things now compared to what they were doing in 1983. I mean, I don't know much about wind energy and how much, but I know that it's come a long ways. And
would you like to make a motion that says maybe county should contact?
tell me what motion to make and I'll say yes, because I have no idea. Like, I'm like last time, I'm like, I didn't know we could make motions because I would have done it last time
Someone's
on
giving
another
you
one.
the language right below you in green. It's the little green munchkin fairy that is the motion fairy.
Yes.
Mike, you make the motion and I'll second it because you already know the motion and you already said the motion.
Yeah, but I can't. Someone else has to bring it up.
I wish I could have made a motion about having a new mapping done. I didn't know we could make motions about having a flood map made for our county.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
Tiffany,
they just magically make it up as they go. They
I
don't ask
know.
you. They just put overlay after overlay, and then when the state wants a different overlay, they put an overlay over that overlay. Correct, Gail? Correct.
That's why God invented colored pencils, Jim.
That's exactly right. And by the way, they can never be erased, the ones that they have. Okay, so who's going to make the motion?
it's right there in front of you in green. Someone just has to say, I make a motion that the.
I make a motion that the county should contact ODE to see if another study can be completed to identify potential wind generation sites or to get rid of, I don't know, or just and reassess the current ones.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like if we don't need the airport, then why do we have it on there? You know, like if it's irrelevant now, or it doesn't even fit into the plan of the port, then why do we
It's in
have
the
it?
city of Warrenton. The county doesn't have anything to say about it.
That's what I mean.
Okay, I'll second her motion.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table. All those in favor
Aye.
of the county, hold on. All those in favor of the county contacting the ODOE to see if another study can be completed to identify potential wind generation sites and reassess current sites. Give me an
Now?
aye.
Aye now.
Aye.
All right. Any nays? All right, the ayes have it. Nicely done, Tiffany.
Oh,
Good work.
thanks.
Very good work. All right. Maybe we've beaten that one to death. Let's go down to the next one. See if this one's going to bite. Yeah, this is a good one too. I mean, I think, yeah. I bet you Gail knows a little bit about hydro facilities now that she's been researching. Gail, you wanna comment on some of this now that you've got all that knowledge?
Yeah, so pretty much my knowledge is in this table, but the only thing I know, and I know Jim knows more than this about this than I do, but I learned that a low-head hydro project is basically a very small 2-3 foot dam that you're putting in a stream to kind of generate electricity for your own small project, whether that's
Like
your
a
house
weir.
or whatever.
Like a weir.
Yeah.
Irrigation weir.
Yeah. So that now you know as much as I do, which is nothing. So
So my question is, when does it become a small project and a large project? Is that when it's doing more than your own capacity? Or, there's some interesting ones I've thought about, which one of the most interesting one that I could think about to this day is if you drive out 202 and the culvert that they put the new culvert under the highway that they didn't allow them to put a new tie gate on. That is the biggest wasted energy potential producing project there could ever be. And it would really be cool to put a little hydro plant on that thing, because if you've ever watched it coming and going at tides, it would draw it both ways and it would be a continuous electrical source. But what would it take to do that?
Yeah.
and these questions I do not have answers to. So
And who would invest in it?
I have a question. Is that a fish
I
passage?
would love to.
Would the ODOE, am I on? Would the ODOE, when they do their study, I mean, if we can get them to do a study for us, would they look into this kind of thing, the low flow hydro facilities?
I would suspect that would be a separate study.
That'd be a separate study?
I would expect that to be.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, since we're relying here on state and federal permitting processes, it seems like if we don't even have any sites determined or any feasibility for any sites, what's the point of all this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the city of Astoria in Napa, which is county jurisdiction, did they ever complete theirs? Or did that get held up? I'm not quite sure. But that was one of the potential sites for a hydro plant on Bear Creek. Does anybody know? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's right in Julia's backyard. She should know.
It's not completely in my backyard, and I do not know. I have not heard anything whatsoever. It's been it's been on their books forever, but I haven't heard anything about going forward with that at all, nor anything out at the falls.
Yeah, didn't they have to come to the county for permitting for that up there? Or did they even do that?
They would have had to, and I haven't seen anything.
Huh. Well, that's an interesting one. I'll have to look into that one. But that's one of the sites. So I guess it's necessary to have something in policy too. Because I think that was to generate their own, wasn't it? I didn't know that it had any surplus. And it might have. I don't know that.
That, unless it's they had a small project, and I don't remember if they actually even completed it. Part of it is they were going to just power that that particular site, and the whole thing is in a really pretty serious geologic hazard area. And that's what I really remember about the site was the geohazard. I don't know that they ever finished the hydro part of it or not. I know they were talking about it, but that's close to 10 years ago.
So they can do that on a state level and not do it on a county level also? You'd think they'd have to go through the county process and the state process both. Don't know, just
If you're going to put in a hydro project, you're going to need a fish passage with that also.
Oh, uh-oh. So this policy too really has nothing to do with low flow hydro. It just has everything to do with you guys relying on state and feds to do the overflow permitting for you because the Clatsop County staff is not does not have the expertise. Is that really what it's all about? And you just want to keep it that way?
I would say that from my perspective, that's a fair assessment of this policy, yes.
All right. I think it sounds good to me.
I agree with that too. The more layers, the worse it can be. So the less layers, the better.
Okay. Can we move on to 3? I think that sounds fine.
I agree with that.
Go with it.
Okay, let's look at 4. Yeah, I think that's great too. We just,
There it is. We're talking about it. Yes.
do we want to move on to goal 13? Does everybody agree that that's good? We should recommend retaining the policy?
Go with
I
it.
agree.
Yep.
So you're on to policy 1 of 13, is that correct?
Correct.
What's all that noise in the background? Who's drinking beer at a bar?
Not me. I'm in Big River's office and they're having a meeting in the other room.
Okay. I mean, I read through all this stuff. I think it all sounds pretty good to me. I mean, I think we should retain the policies on this stuff. I think they're really good. We should have more conservation of energy, and we should be considering all of that stuff at a higher level than we are.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, Jim, you paying attention, or are you off doing something?
I had to go close the door to the room, so.
Okay. So we're just looking at this stuff right here on 13, these A, B, and C under policy 1. I think it all sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I heard you guys. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, good. Let's move on to D, and oh, there's sub numbers on that one. Well, go up a little bit, scroll up a little. Did I miss something? Okay, yeah, let me just see that. Yeah, that's all just part of C. Okay. That's all good stuff.
I think the staff's done a good job with this here. Let's go with it.
Yeah, I think so too.
We're talking about before or now?
I mean, I love planning. I'd love to see more planning happen in this community. I've not seen it really at all ever, but it sure is a nice idea.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'd like to see some legitimate planning too.
Have you
Also.
seen any real good planning happening anywhere around here?
Oh, I
I mean,
cursed.
nothing against the planners. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. I'm
No,
just saying, just generally speaking.
I curse the Warrenton area where Costco is every time I drive over there.
Exhibit A. I'm sorry, Warrenton, but
That's awful. That's like the worst planning I've ever seen in my life. Sorry, I hope none of you guys were involved with that.
no, they were not, nor are they.
Oh.
All right.
I literally say, who is the idiot who designed this every single time I drive through it? And I apologize if you know that person.
Would have
There,
been staff from Warrenton working with the Oregon Department of Transportation.
yeah.
They're on Highway 101. I'm pretty sure that's the area you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, whoever designed that on the Home Depot side really ought to have their head examined, not having turn lanes, but
Both
that
of
is
them, both sides.
pretty impressive. Yeah, it's comical to get in and out of things.
All right,
Anyway,
let's not bash our good friends up in Warrenton. Bless the Warriors up there. They're nice people.
I'm sure they're great people. They just do not know how to
Yeah,
plan.
they want a lot of commercial stuff all at once. Someone's got to pay the bills.
Okay.
All right, let's look at the next thing. Comprehensive plan policies. Oh, are we gonna? Can we skip to Gail's report? No. Okay, we'll just go through the stuff. I was really interested in Gail's.
Oh, I do have a question about D. The city, what is that exactly? The county city should work together to establish countywide recycling operation. What's the sheltered workshop program?
I don't know unless Julia knows. I'm not familiar with it. But
I do not know. I know the county has been ridiculously busy with the household hazardous waste facility, and it's been a great program that's actually has been through the county health department. Anyway, it's so we've got recycling through Recology, and the household hazardous waste facility takes car batteries and all that other stuff, and they are busy. And that probably is something that can expand. I see in the recommendation revised policy to state that the county will continue to support, promote, and expand recycling opportunities. Honestly, we could probably have this at the substations every weekend. I know the substation out in my area, people show up with stuff and then they're disappointed if there's nobody there to take it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really popular.
Yeah, I know. I know it's like twice a year, and every time I'm like, I go because I take my recycling in, and then I see it's open. I'm like, dang it! I didn't know it was today. And I'm not about to drive home and go back out to it.
Yeah.
I also have another question that made me think of something else. When I went to grad school, I lived in New York State, and one of the communities I lived in, is it Jim or John? It's JN, whoever is on here.
Jim,
Jim, when you were talking about landfill, it made me think of that community where they had a place for people to go dump off their organic waste, and then every year they had a pile of organic compost, like ground that has been made that people could come who contributed who could come and just take what was like, so it was like a. And I'm not saying that is that something that the county could do, not necessarily but free, but they could like take waste or dirt or soil or whatever, and create mulch or something that could be sold or used in the county. I don't know.
Are you
and
talking about like a composting cooperative?
Yeah, kind of, but it was the city that did it or the county that did it. It wasn't just and then people in the community had access to it.
there are private ones, but community ones, there's nothing like that. But like I say, there is no avenue towards any kind of a dump site, period. So I don't know.
Sorry, that was a tangent.
No, that's a good tangent. Thank you for bringing it up. Well, all of this stuff looks pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with the staff report. These guys are doing good stuff. Hey Tiffany, where in New York?
That was in Monroe County.
Yeah, Rochester.
Mhm.
Were you U of R or RIT or which one?
Well, I actually went to school at Hunter in New York City, and then when I was done, I was in I was a year in Webster.
That's where I grew up. I grew up in Webster.
Hmm.
Literally.
It's a nice little town.
It's nice. It was an incredible place to grow up.
I bet.
That's amazing. You're the first person I've met that has said the word Webster since I've moved away from there.
Can't imagine why. That side of the country, this side of the country.
You never know, man. You never know. Okay, so we got table 2, goal 5. So yeah, so there's nothing going on around here. This is like what do they call it? An energy desert, right?
Mhm.
We need a
Well,
nuclear power plant out here to get everybody riled up.
I agree. I agree. Best,
at least
best
in the goals
energy
and
in the world.
policies. In the goals and policies, it's an energy desert. Yes. Although I mean, there's potential for hydro. There's potential for solar. So, but they're just, you don't have anything right at the moment. Would you like something?
Would we be good, even good for solar?
Well, let me tell you this. Right up above where I live, right next to one of the Nygaard parcels, there's the Lewis and Clark did some cutting, and we live right below the ridge line, so the wind just kind of comes right over the top of the ridge and goes right over the top of us. But man, it is super duper windy up there. It's amazingly windy. I mean, the wind, it comes howling over there. It's astonishing. Hurricane force stuff by the time it gets over there. That's a great place to put wind turbines. I wouldn't mind looking up at them. I think they'd be cool. I don't know.
So are you suggesting that as a potential site to be
Yes,
explored?
big time. You can access that area. You go up near the Big River Mine, right? And you just kind of go all the way up, wind your way up onto those ridge lines up there. There's so much wind that comes ripping through there. It's amazing. Comes just right off the Tillamook Head.
Okay, so Gail has put into table 3 that we need wind turbines at the mayor's house.
I totally agree they should be there because anybody that thinks those are beautiful has deserves them at their house, by the way.
I think they're really great. I mean, they look like little dancing, like Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies kind of thing. I mean, when I look at it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true.
That concept never came to me when I saw those big, ugly white things spinning around in circles, hundreds in a row on the gorge. I think those are absolutely the most hideous thing that any human being could put on earth. Just my opinion.
Well, they sure aren't paying for themselves up there, that's for darn sure.
Well, that may be the case.
But if you want to get one up by your place, or I'll buy the power from you.
So you could lead exercise classes along with your wind turbines.
I could set up a little yoga studio on my deck, and they could be in the background, and we could do like little jumping jacks. And
Thank you for
does that sound fun? Would you come to my classes, Gail, if I did that? You'd go. I know you would. We could wear costumes.
Love
It'd
to
be
see
great.
the video.
Exactly.
I'm so glad to have a mute button.
I should be using mine more often. All right. So more wind turbines by Magyar's house. That sounds good. Organic dump site. Anybody else have any community comments?
Was it with us last time when they had or did I just see this on the internet? I can never remember anywhere that I see anything. The solar farms with cow pastures. So the cows and the sheep like trim around to keep the grass away from the solar panels. and then the solar panels are producing energy in the same place that there's grazing going on.
Yeah, I sent that article out to everyone. It came
Yeah,
actually from someone out in Brownsmead.
that was an interesting article.
So are you recommending that for your
So,
planning
so
area?
more goats?
Oh, we have farmers. I mean, if they want to put solar powers on their pasture, I don't see why not.
Turbines and goats at my daughter's house. Very good.
I could use a few goats if you got any extras.
Well, as it happens, resource lands such as the EFU and the F80 and the AF zones all actually do have language in them that permits these types of energy projects, typically as type 2 or type 2A, so they usually need a public hearing of some sort. I mean, they're generally going to get elevated, so
We
it's
don't need to
really
add
a matter
anything new.
if somebody's interested in doing a large scale project like that, having them bring it.
So we don't need to really add anything on then. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, but the idea of encouraging it, that's never a bad thing, because remember, we use these goals and policies to support projects when they come in. We say, hey, look, here in goal 13, the CACs and the Planning Commission and the board has adopted this policy that supports this concept. So, that's part of what we use these for, is to justify a finding that it's compatible in the area. So if you're looking at it and saying this is something that would work in these areas under these conditions, that actually supports it. And so it's good to have it in the comprehensive plan.
I like the idea. Does anybody else?
Sounds good to me.
Sure, except for if you generate too much wind power, the state will take the winds of the state, then we'll have to deal with Dan Carey on the winds of the state, like the waters of the state.
We're talking about sunshine. I'm talking about sunshine.
Okay, sunshine then, if we make too much money from it, the state will have to call it the sunshine of the state, like they call the waters of the state, because all waters in the state belong to the state, and we'll have Dan Carey enforcing that too.
I don't know who Dan Carey is, but okay.
He
Jim
is
will
the
introduce you.
archaeologist.
He's the state Santa Claus. He gives you gifts all the time for using their water.
Okay.
In other words, fines.
Oh,
Yes, he loves to fine people, and he loves to tell you how all the water is the waters of the state. Therefore, that's what creates wetlands and everything else. Wetlands are only regulated because the state owns all the water. Unless it floods, then all of a sudden the waters aren't the state's, because why do you need flood insurance if the only thing that's going to flood you are the waters of the state? Correct, Dale? Correct.
Just so that you know, Tiffany, Jim has a long-standing personal relationship with Dan Carey. These men know each other fairly well.
sounds like they're tight.
We
Oh
are.
yeah.
I kind of like Dan in an adversarial way. He is very interesting to banter with, because everything that the state says and all the rules have no basis in logic whatsoever, and they are the dumbest thing there is. But as Dan Carey says, it is what it is, but it isn't. I'm the guy with all the power. That's his famous statement that I will never let him forget.
You know, Tiffany, every superhero needs a foil.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe Dan Carey is Jim's foil.
Yeah, thank you for calling me a superhero. That was very
You are.
nice.
You are. You'll see, Tiffany. This guy knows more than pretty much all of us combined. That's
I
the
wonder
truth.
what kind of tights I can wear.
No, Jim. That's not
Oh, really? I was just getting excited over that statement.
okay. I'm sorry, everybody.
I don't have a visual. I have no visual at all because I don't know
It's
what Jim
better.
looks
It's
like.
better.
Don't
better.
let your pants know.
Think of
This is good.
wicker
We
or
got Jim
something if
going.
you can. It's
We're having
Oh,
fun
did you say
now.
wicker?
I did.
All right, back on community composting. Just kidding.
Okay. So this, can I go up to this staff comment here from the number one with all of that stuff? How do we feel about bus stops and bike paths and walking paths and everything whenever, I like that phrase, whenever possible. That's my favorite disclaimer. That works every time.
Yeah, that means that there won't be one from Astoria to Warrenton.
All right. Does anybody have any further comments for this new issues and policies worksheet? As far as bringing energy to only Woluski? Probably not, huh?
There's only so much we can do, right?
There's only so much time.
All
right.
generating plants.
Let's move on. What's next? What do you got going on down there?
Well, if you have finished with your review of the Goal 5 and Goal 13 topics, then you are back to public comment and input, and you are running about 25 minutes ahead of schedule. So you could possibly get finished early tonight, which I know isn't going to break anybody's heart, unless you wanted to look any more at any of the staff report or anything like that, or if there's anything else that you want to look at in your review. Otherwise, you're into public comment and input.
All right. Well, Jim.
Public comment. Can I make this statement one more time? Before Clatsop County code enforcement initiates code violations and nuisance orders and everything else, I've said this before, can we actually go out and legitimately investigate them first before contacting the owner and coming up with bizarre reasons why they should do things and what code that they're possibly breaking? Can we actually physically have investigations first? Because I am now getting a lighting nuisance ordinance for having even to today's standards, a light that is at 45-degree angle pointing towards nobody's property, that I'm getting a nuisance complaint from a property owner that is 90 degrees from it, because they call up and tell you that I don't like the light. So instead of anybody investigating it, they're going to write me a nuisance order and wants me to change something that is not even relevant to what is going on. Thank you.
Yes, and just for the record, to address Mr. Nikas's concern, our code compliance officer actually went out to the site, contacted the business owner, and asked could they just turn the light down to point towards the ground. The business owner told us that we should contact the property owner, which was why you were contacted. And you have not been issued a warning or an infraction. You have just been contacted by the code enforcement officer, who I understand.
Rob told me that he was issuing me a nuisance complaint and that I needed to fight it from there because I was unwilling to just say, yes, Rob, I'll do whatever you want after I have a legal light that's been sitting there for a year. That, by the way, is pointed at a 45-degree angle down to the ground and is not bothering anybody, and it's a health and safety issue. And I don't know what to tell you. I asked him if he didn't even know what neighbor it was. He hadn't been out and looked at it. And it is just another NIMBY effect that you just blatantly write stuff for the sake of writing. Thank you. That's my public comment. I'm back to being a member of the Only Woluski group.
In tights.
The chair is muted.
Yep. He didn't want
Hey, Jim, if you could find some tights that match that logging shirt you like to wear, and then you could wear tights, striped tights with the striped logging shirt. That's your superhero outfit.
to.
That's just my.
I already
That's what
have it.
I.
I'll see the pictures. I already got
All
it.
right, that's my public comment.
Perfect.
All right, Pat, you have any public comments that you'd like to offer?
Not at this time, but thank you.
All right, Tiffany, anything you'd like to add?
Did anybody watch the webinars that was offered by PSU for the natural disasters 2 weeks ago?
I missed those.
The geo disaster resilience. It was really interesting. And you're right, Jim. If it floods, I learned if it floods, you will not get any support, but if it burns down, then your insurance will cover it.
There you go. But you shouldn't have to have anything because it's the waters of the state are the only thing that can possibly cause you damage. So therefore, can you have the ownership of something without being responsible for what your thing does? It's like having a car and not being responsible when it crashes into something. There's the state of Oregon in a nutshell.
You have to talk to the insurance companies because they're the ones that said they won't pay.
Well, liability has nothing to do with insurance. Insurance is just a guard against the liability.
So you're saying that the state should have liability on water?
Absolutely. If they own it and it impacts you, obviously they should be responsible for it. You can't have both of them. You can't have the benefits of owning all the water and charging people for docks and charging people for doing hydroelectric and very soon in the future charging them on a well. They're going to charge you by the gallon for the water that you're drinking. You have to take some liabilities for those waters that you own. But nobody would listen to logic.
Okay.
Okay, there's all the public comment. What a bunch of diatribe.
All right, let's go. Let's move past to the next meeting time and date. What do you fancy planners have planned for us?
Well, actually, I'd like to just check in. You have another person on the line. You have caller number 2, and I don't know who that is, but I thought we might they joined us partway through. I just want to verify that that person is on the line and wants or doesn't want to participate in the public comment and input. And I do not know who caller number 2 is.
It's like door number 3. You know, what's that
I
game
don't.
show?
It's not someone who is unmuting, and so I'm going to, I guess, assume that they don't want to participate. But I do want that option available to them if they do. So anyway, they're remaining muted. So you're on to review of your next meeting date and time. And you've been meeting on the 4th Thursday at 6 p.m. And if that is okay, then we'll continue with that.
I say okay. Anybody else have any conflicts with that?
Which day is it?
It's the 4th Thursday at 6 p.m.
Which is the 18th? Or is it the 25th?
25th.
Probably the 25th.
No conflicts.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with any time.
Okay. So Thursday the 25th at 6 p.m. it is.
Yes.
And then you are actually, you're about 30 minutes ahead of schedule for closing comments and adjournment.
I want to welcome Tiffany Hall, and thanks for participating. It's really awesome, and for stepping up and taking the vice chair slot. That's very ambitious.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but
Neither do I.
I'm learning.
And also Pat, was Pat here when you were here before Mike?
Yep, Pat was here last time. I think we started at the same time.
Mike wasn't here last time.
Yeah, Mike
Yeah,
was.
I don't remember Pat. I haven't met Pat yet.
Well, we have not met, but we will.
Thanks, Pat, for hanging out and for sometimes saying something. That's really awesome.
You bet.
All right, shall we call these comments to a close? And I hereby adjourn this meeting of February 25th, 2021 of the CAC.